Have you ever noticed how some people walk into a room and just naturally, all heads turn? It's not because they're the prettiest or the loudest. It's something deeper, more magnetic. There's an invisible code they unlock, a frequency they emit that makes people gravitate toward them like planets around the sun. Here's the paradox that will blow your mind: the more you seek attention, the less you get. The more you beg for validation, the more people pull away. It's like trying to hold water in your hands. The harder you squeeze, the more it slips through your fingers. Stoic philosophers discovered this secret more than 2,000 years ago. Marcus Aurelius, the world's most powerful emperor, wrote in his personal musings, "The best way to avenge oneself on an enemy is not to become like him." But there was an even deeper wisdom in his words: the best way to win people's attention is to not need it to be happy. Over the next few minutes, I'm going to unlock 10 mental codes that will completely transform your presence in the world. These aren't cheap tricks or manipulative techniques. These are profound principles that have shaped some of the most magnetic human beings in history. By the end of this video, you will no longer be the same person you were when you started watching. Something fundamental will have changed in your very essence. Epictetus, a slave who became one of humanity's greatest teachers, taught that happiness and freedom begin with a clear understanding of one principle: some things are within our control, and some are not. This understanding will be the key that will open all the doors you thought were closed forever. You're about to discover why people like Nelson Mandela could command the respect of even his captors, why leaders like Gandhi moved crowds without shouting, and why figures like Steve Jobs made people wait hours just to hear a few words from him. Get ready for a journey that will begin with your relationship with yourself and culminate in a radical transformation of how the world responds to your presence. Each code we unlock will be a piece of a larger puzzle, the construction of authentic and irresistible magnetism. The first code that needs to be unlocked in your mind is related to a devastating truth: you are an emotional beggar, and you don't even realize it. Every time you post a photo on social media and check how many likes it got, you are begging. Every time you change your behavior to please someone, you are begging. Every time you feel anxious because you didn't get an immediate response on WhatsApp, you are begging for crumbs of attention. Emotional self-sufficiency is like having a spring of crystal clear water inside you while others die of thirst in the desert. When you don't need others to validate your existence, something magical happens. People begin to naturally gravitate toward you. Epictetus, who knew the pain of dependence deeply, he had been a slave for years, after all, discovered that true freedom comes not from broken chains but from a mind that does not need external approval to function. "No man is free who is not master of himself," he said. Imagine waking up tomorrow and finding that other people's opinions of you have completely lost their power to affect your mood. Imagine walking into a meeting, a date, a party, and being so comfortable in your own skin that people sense that steady energy and want to be around you. But be careful, self-reliance is not arrogance. It's not building walls around your heart. It's having a center so strong that you can genuinely connect with others without losing yourself in the process. It's like a tree with deep roots; it can dance with the wind without being knocked down by it. Here's the first practical exercise that will begin to unlock that code. Every morning, before you pick up your phone, spend 5 minutes doing an internal check-in. Ask yourself, how do I feel right now, before I know how the world sees me today? Write down that feeling. This is your natural state, your emotional baseline. Throughout the day, practice the inner observer technique. Before important interactions, pause and ask yourself, am I entering this conversation as an emotional beggar or as someone who is already whole? The difference in how people respond to you will be immediate and shocking. Keep a self-sufficiency journal. Every night, write down 3 times when you felt complete without needing external validation. It could be something as simple as enjoying a sunset, solving a problem on your own, or simply being comfortable in silence. The signs that you're developing magnetic self-sufficiency are clear. You stop constantly checking social media for posts, you can be comfortable in silence during conversations, you make decisions based on your inner values rather than the opinions of others, and, most importantly, you can be alone without feeling lonely. Avoid confusing self-sufficiency with emotional coldness. You are not becoming a rock, you are becoming a mountain, solid, majestic, and able to provide shelter for others without moving from its center. The result? People start seeking out your opinion because they feel like it's coming from an authentic place. Relationships become more balanced because you're no longer desperate for attention. And most liberating of all, your social anxiety dramatically decreases because you stop measuring your worth by the bar of other people's approval. But self-reliance is just the first code. To create true magnetism, you need to master the paradoxical art of detachment, and that's exactly what we unlock next. Now we come to the second code, perhaps the most counterintuitive of all. To have people, you have to be willing to lose them. This is the paradox that separates the magnetic from the needy. The more you hold on to someone, the more they want to escape. The more you allow them to be free, the more they choose to stay. It's like holding a bird. Close your hand and it will suffocate, open it and it may fly away, but it may choose to perch on your shoulder. Marcus Aurelius, the most powerful man of his time, wrote in his personal journals, "Loss is but change, and change is nature's delight." He knew that even his vast empire was temporary, and this awareness of impermanence freed him to rule without despair, love without possessiveness, and lead without control. Healthy detachment is not indifference. It is not building a wall around your heart or pretending you don't care. It is something much more subtle and powerful. It is caring deeply while keeping your hands open. It is loving intensely while accepting that everything is on loan from life. We'll unlock this code in 4 progressive levels. In the first level, you learn to let go of specific outcomes in conversations. You can express your opinion, make your invitation, show your interest, but don't be desperate for the outcome. If the person agrees, great. If not, that's fine too. On the second level, you detach yourself from how others perceive you. You act according to your values, not what you imagine others want to see. This creates a magnetic authenticity because people feel like they're interacting with a real person, not a performance. At the third level, you let go of the need to be understood. You may explain your position once, maybe twice, but you don't keep repeating it obsessively until the person gets it. This serenity in the face of misunderstanding is deeply attractive. At the fourth and deepest level, you let go of controlling the behavior of others. You influence through example, not manipulation. You inspire, not force. You invite, not demand. Here's a powerful technique for developing detachment: negative visualization. It's not pessimism, it's emotional preparation. Imagine losing the most important relationships in your life. Not to torture yourself, but to appreciate what you have without clinging desperately to it. When you accept that everything can change, you are free to fully enjoy the present moment. Practice the what-if exercise. When you feel anxious about someone's reaction, ask yourself, what if this person doesn't like me? Would I be okay? The answer is almost always yes, and this realization frees you from the fear that kills magnetism. In relationships, apply the natural space technique. After a positive interaction, resist the temptation to bombard the person with messages. Give them space to process, miss you, and choose to return. Space is where desire grows. Signs that you are developing healthy detachment include an ability to easily end conversations when necessary, an ability to not take offense to constructive criticism, an ability to say no without guilt, and, most magnetic of all, the ability to attract people who genuinely value your authenticity. Beware of the traps. Detachment is not rejection. You are not closing yourself off, you are opening yourself up in a more mature way. You are not becoming cold, you are becoming brave enough to love without guarantees. The result is magical. Relationships become lighter and more enjoyable, conflicts decrease because you're not constantly fighting to control outcomes, and, surprise, people start to value your presence more because it doesn't come with invisible strings attached. But detachment without virtue can become indifference. That's why the third code we need to unlock is even more fundamental: developing your personal virtue, the true magnet that makes people gravitate toward you. We come to the third code, the most powerful of all. Virtue is the only true magnetism. Everything else is a stage trick that eventually fades away. But virtue? That is a force that spans centuries and touches souls. The Stoics identified 4 cardinal virtues that when developed, create an irresistible magnetism, wisdom, justice, courage, and temperance. These are not abstract concepts from ancient philosophy, they are practical superpowers that you can develop today. Wisdom isn't about knowing everything, it's about knowing that you don't know everything. It's the intellectual humility that makes you ask deep questions instead of trying to impress with shallow answers. When you genuinely admit, "I don't know, teach me," something magical happens. People feel smart and valued, and they gravitate toward you. Practice asking a curious question in every conversation. Instead of waiting for your turn to speak, ask, "What made you think that?" or "How did you come to that conclusion?" You'll find that people love to be listened to by someone who is genuinely interested in their perspective. Justice is treating all people with equal dignity, regardless of their social status. It is standing up for the weak without needing recognition. It is being consistent in your values even when no one is looking. People feel safe around fair individuals, and safety is magnetic. Try this powerful exercise. For 1 week, treat every person you meet, from the CEO to the doorman, with exactly the same level of respect and interest. Watch how it transforms not only how others respond to you, but how you feel about yourself. Courage is not the absence of fear, it is action in spite of fear. It is expressing unpopular opinions respectfully, it is making difficult decisions when necessary, it is stepping out of your comfort zone regularly. Courage inspires, and inspiration is magnetic. Identify a difficult conversation you've been avoiding, a decision you've been putting off, a risk you've been afraid to take. It doesn't have to be something huge. It could be something as simple as giving honest feedback to a colleague or expressing a need in a relationship. Courage is developed through practice, not theory. Temperance is self-control, but not repression. It is the ability to moderate impulses, to not react automatically to provocations, to maintain a balance between work and play, between giving and receiving. People feel calm around tempered individuals, and calm is deeply attractive. Implement the 6-second rule. When you feel a strong impulse, anger, frustration, the urge to respond impulsively, count to 6 seconds before you act. These are enough seconds for the emotional chemistry to dissipate and you can choose your response instead of being dominated by it. Here's the most transformative exercise. Every night, do a virtues review. Ask yourself, how did I demonstrate wisdom today? How did I practice justice? Where did I show courage? How did I exercise temperance? Don't judge yourself, just notice. What you pay attention to, grows. Create a role model. Study a historical figure you admire not for his or her achievements but for his or her character. This could be Nelson Mandela, Gandhi, Eleanor Roosevelt, or anyone who demonstrated virtue in difficult circumstances. When faced with dilemmas, ask yourself, what would this person do? The fascinating thing about virtue is that it creates a virtuous circle. The more virtue you develop, the more virtuous people you attract. The more virtuous people you have around you, the easier it becomes to be virtuous. It's like moral gravity. You start orbiting in higher and higher circles. Avoid the trap of perfectionism. Virtue is not about being perfect, it is about being committed to growth. Every failure is an opportunity to learn, every mistake is a stepping stone to climb higher. The results of developing virtue are profound. People begin to seek your advice, your presence brings calm to tense environments, conflicts are resolved more easily around you, and you arouse genuine admiration that goes far beyond superficial attraction. But virtue without presence can go unnoticed. That's why the fourth code we need to unlock is the art of being fully present, and that's what can transform ordinary encounters into extraordinary moments. The fourth code is devastatingly simple and powerfully rare: total presence in a world of infinite distractions. We live in an age of fragmented attention. People talk while checking their phones, listen while formulating responses, are physically present but mentally absent. In the midst of this chaos of dispersion, someone truly present stands out like a candle lit in a dark room. Marcus Aurelius called this prosoche, directed mindfulness. It's not just being in the present moment, it's being so completely absorbed in the here and now that you become a portal for others to experience this rare quality of awareness as well. Imagine being in a conversation with someone who is 100% present with you. No distractions, No hidden agenda, no rush to get to the next point. This person looks you in the eye when you speak, asks questions that show they've really listened, and creates a safe space where you can be completely authentic. How would that make you feel? That's the magnetic power of presence. The tragedy is that most people never experience this because we are constantly running away from the present moment. We run into the past through regrets, we run into the future through anxieties, we run into fantasies through cell phones. We are rarely where our bodies are. Let's unlock this code with practical and powerful techniques. First, learn the breathing reset technique. Before any important interaction, take 3 deep, conscious breaths. Inhale for 4 seconds, hold for 4, exhale for 6. This anchors you in the present moment and signals to your nervous system that you are safe and can genuinely connect. Practice sensory grounding. During conversations, consciously choose one of your 5 senses to pay attention to. This could be the sound of the person's voice, the feel of your feet on the ground, or the colors around you. This keeps your mind from wandering and keeps you grounded in the here and now. Use the intentional pause technique. When someone finishes speaking, count for a second before responding. This microscopic pause allows you to really process what was said and respond more thoughtfully. People will feel like you've really considered their words. In conversations, practice genuine eye contact, not fixed like a predator, but soft and interested. When you really see the person you're talking to, they feel seen in a way they rarely experience in the modern world. Develop the ability to ask probing questions. Instead of accepting superficial answers, ask, "What was that like for you?" or "What stood out to you about that?" These questions signal that you have taken the time and are genuinely interested in the person's experience. In groups, become a conscious observer of the dynamics. Who is being ignored? Who has something to say but isn't getting the space? Who is uncomfortable? Use your presence to create inclusion and balance energies, not to dominate the conversation. Practice body scan during interactions. Quickly notice if there is tension in your shoulders, if your breathing is rapid, if your fists are clenched. Consciously adjust to a relaxed, open posture. Your body communicates your presence before you even speak. Create presence rituals. Turn off notifications during important conversations. Put your phone in another room, or at least turn it face down. These small acts communicate that the person has your undivided attention, a rare gift in today's world. The benefits of mastering presence are extraordinary. Conversations become deeper and more meaningful, misunderstandings decrease dramatically, people feel genuinely heard and valued, and you develop authentic connections that go far beyond the superficial. Avoid the trap of forcing presence as a technique. Genuine presence comes from genuine interest in others and the moment. If you're just performing presence to impress, people will sense the inauthenticity. The result is that you become an oasis of calm and attention in a chaotic world. People will begin to seek your company not just for what you say, but for the quality of attention you provide. But presence without emotional control can be too vulnerable. That's why the 5th code we unlock is about maintaining your emotional stability in any situation, becoming the anchor others look to in storms. We come to the 5th code, perhaps the most liberating of all. You are not a slave to your emotions. They are storms that pass, but you are the mountain that remains. In a world where everyone seems to be constantly reacting, exploding in traffic, taking offense on social media, panicking over the smallest things, someone who is emotionally stable stands out like a beacon in the storm. People naturally gravitate toward those who radiate calm and control. The Stoics discovered something revolutionary about emotions. It is not events that disturb us, but our judgments about events. Epictetus, who suffered more than most of us will ever suffer, taught, "It is not things that disturb us, but our opinion of things." Imagine having the superpower to stay calm when everyone around you is losing theirs. Imagine being the person others turn to in times of crisis because they know you won't panic. That's the magnetism of emotional control. Let's unlock this code by understanding the anatomy of an emotional response. First, there's an external stimulus. Someone criticizes you, cuts you off in traffic, ignores you. Second, there's an initial impression. You feel a spark of anger, sadness, or fear. Third, and this is where you have power, comes your judgment about that impression. Fourth, Based on that judgment, comes the full emotional response. Fifth, you act on that emotion. Most people think they go straight from stimulus to action, but there is a sacred space between stimulus and response, and in that space lies your freedom. Holocaust survivor Viktor Frankl said, "Between stimulus and response there is a space. In that space lies our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom." Here's the most powerful technique for emotional control, the 6-second pause. When you feel an intense emotion coming on, stop everything and count to 6. Scientifically, this is how long it takes for the initial emotional chemistry to dissipate and for you to regain access to your higher executive functions. During this pause, ask yourself the fundamental Stoic question: does this reaction bring me closer to or further from my goals and values? If the answer is it does, you have the power to choose a different response. Practice Socratic questioning in moments of stress. Ask yourself, is this situation really as dire as my mind is making it out to be? What can I learn from this? How can I use this to grow? Use the cognitive reframing technique, consciously seek out alternative perspectives. If someone criticizes you, instead of automatically defending yourself, ask yourself, is there any useful truth to this? If someone ignores you, instead of assuming contempt, consider, maybe this person is going through something difficult. Develop your observer identity. Learn to see yourself from the outside during intense emotional moments. Imagine yourself watching a movie of your own life. This psychological distance allows you to maintain perspective and choose your actions consciously. In specific situations, use these strategies. For criticism, respond with, "Interesting perspective. Let me think about it." For provocation, use, "You might be right," and change the subject. For conflict, focus on solutions. How can we solve this together? For romantic or social rejections, practice seeing them as redirection, not personal failure. The right person for you won't reject you, so a rejection is simply clearing the way for more authentic connections. Maintain balance during crises by using controlled breathing. Inhale for 4, hold for 4, exhale for 6. Use neutral, factual language rather than emotional language. Focus on what you can control, not what you can't. Build emotional resilience through adversity practice. Gradually expose yourself to small discomforts to strengthen your ability to deal with big challenges. Take cold showers, fast occasionally, practice difficult conversations. The magnetism of emotional stability runs deep. People feel safe around you. You become a natural leader because others trust your judgment. Conflicts resolve more easily because you don't add emotional fuel to the fire, and you radiate a calm confidence that is deeply attractive. Avoid the trap of repressing emotions. Emotional control is not the absence of emotions. It is a conscious choice about how to express and use your emotions productively. The result is extraordinary freedom. You are no longer a hostage to your automatic reactions. You become the author of your responses, the director of your reactions, the master of your emotional destiny. But emotional control without the ability to listen deeply can feel cold. That's why the 6th code we've unlocked is about the lost art of listening, the skill that turns you into an irresistible human magnet. Epictetus, one of the greatest Stoic philosophers, said something that may seem simple but contains transformative power: we have 2 ears and 1 mouth so that we can listen twice as much as we speak. But here's the first code that will unlock your mind: there's a world of difference between hearing and really listening. And when you master the art of deep listening, something magical happens. People start to feel truly seen by you. Let me show you the 4 levels of listening that separate average people from magnetically attractive people. Level 1 is superficial listening. You're just waiting for your turn to speak. Your mind is formulating responses while the other person is still talking. This is not listening, it's just polite waiting. Level 2 is focused listening. You really understand the words being said. You can repeat what the person said, but it's still on the surface. Level 3 is empathic listening. Here you go beyond the words and begin to understand the emotions behind them. You feel what the person is feeling. But level 4. Level 4 is where the magic happens. It's transformative listening. You don't just understand the words and emotions, you understand the whole person. You hear what's not being said, You hear the hidden fears, the unspoken dreams, the essence of that human soul. And when you listen at level 4, something extraordinary happens. The person feels completely understood, perhaps for the first time in their life. And this creates a connection that goes far beyond the superficial. But here are the barriers that prevent most people from reaching this level. Your ego wants to be right, your mind wants to formulate brilliant answers, your judgments want to categorize the person. The Stoics knew that to truly listen, you need to temporarily silence your own self. The practical techniques are powerful. Use emotional mirroring. I can see that really hurt you. Confirm with paraphrasing. If I understand correctly, you are saying that. Ask soul-bearing, exploratory questions. How did that make you feel? And learn the power of respectful silence. When you master this code, your relationships transform. Conflicts decrease because you hear the interests behind positions. People feel safe being vulnerable with you. And you become that rare person who truly understands others. But listening deeply requires something precious from you, your energy. And that brings us to the next code that will revolutionize your life. Seneca, an advisor to emperors, said something that may shock you. It's not that we have little time, it's that we waste so much of it. And he was talking not just about time, but about your most precious energy, your relational energy. Here's a truth that few have the courage to say: you don't have to be friends with everyone. In fact, trying to please everyone is the fastest way to become irrelevant to everyone. The Stoics had a concept called preferred indifference, things that are preferable but not essential. Your relationships follow the same principle. Some people deserve your full energy, others deserve politeness and distance. Notice where your energy is leaking: one-sided relationships where you always give and never receive, people who drain your vitality without contributing anything, repetitive conversations that never evolve, unproductive conflicts that repeat themselves endlessly. The selectivity code works like this. Apply the 80-20 rule to your relationships. 80% of your relational energy should go to the 20% most important people in your life. Do a monthly audit. Does this person make me better? Does this relationship add real value to my life? But here's the secret no one tells you: when you become selective with your energy, you automatically become more attractive. Scarcity creates value. When people realize that your time and attention are limited and precious, they start to value every moment with you more. How do you communicate this selectivity gracefully? Be honest about your limitations, offer alternatives when appropriate, explain your priorities without over-excusing yourself, and remain cordial even when declining invitations. The result? Deeper, more meaningful relationships, more energy for important people, greater impact in your interactions, and you naturally attract people who also value quality over quantity. But for that selectivity to be truly magnetic, you need to have something genuine to offer. And that brings us to the next code. Marcus Aurelius wrote in his Meditations, "The wise man never stops learning." And here's a code that can transform you from an ordinary person into someone genuinely fascinating. Cultivate deep, authentic interests. We live in an age of superficial knowledge. Everyone knows a little about everything, but few know a lot about anything. And this is exactly your opportunity to shine. The difference between interesting people and magnetic people is depth. Anyone can repeat newspaper headlines or random facts. But the person who has really studied philosophy, who understands human psychology, who has delved deeply into history or the arts, that person has something truly valuable to offer. But be careful, we're not talking about becoming a pedantic know-it-all. We're talking about developing authentic expertise in areas that genuinely fascinate you. When you talk about something you truly love and understand deeply, your eyes light up, your voice changes, your energy transforms. And that's magnetically attractive. The areas that attract people most are those that touch on the universal human experience: philosophy and life wisdom, human psychology and motivations, history and inspiring biographies, art and cultural expression, science and understanding of nature. The secret is how you share that knowledge. Don't dump facts, tell stories. Don't constantly correct, inspire curiosity. Don't monopolize conversations. Build bridges between your knowledge and the experience of the listener. And here's something powerful: admit your limitations. Say, "I don't know, But this makes me wonder, or this is an area I'm still exploring. Intellectual humility doesn't diminish your charisma, it amplifies it. When you develop authentic expertise and share it with generosity and humility, you become a source of inspiration and growth for others. And that naturally leads us to the next code. We have reached the heart of transformation. This is the code that separates ordinary people from truly charismatic people. And it may be the most difficult of all. The Stoics had justice as one of their 4 cardinal virtues. And justice, to them, meant radical honesty, not just not lying, but living in complete authenticity. But here's what most people don't understand: there's a world of difference between brutal honesty and compassionate honesty. Brutal honesty hurts unnecessarily. Compassionate honesty heals and transforms. Let me show you the 4 components of compassionate honesty that can revolutionize all your relationships. First, truth, accurate facts, and genuine insights. Not your distorted interpretations or assumptions, but the clean, clear reality. Second, opportunity, the appropriate time and context. Some truths need to be told, but not all truths need to be told now, or in any way. Third, intention, your motivation should always be to help, never to hurt. If you are angry or want revenge, wait. Compassionate honesty comes from love, not frustration. Fourth, method, the respectful and constructive way. Use the formula I plus observation plus feeling. I noticed that, and it made me feel. But here's where most people fail: they confuse honesty with emotional outpouring. Compassionate honesty requires courage, yes, but it also requires wisdom and self-control. When you master this code, something extraordinary happens. People start to trust you in a different way. They know you won't lie to them, but they also know you won't hurt them unnecessarily. You become a safe haven in a world full of masks and deception. And this creates a magnetic effect. People gravitate toward those who are genuinely authentic. In a world of poses and performances, authenticity stands out like a beacon. But compassionate honesty only truly works when you live by high standards. And that brings us to the final and most powerful code. This is the most controversial, the most challenging, and also the most transformative code of all. The Stoics had a concept called prokopton, constant moral progress. And this progress begins with a radical decision. Will you accept less than you deserve, or will you hold yourself to high standards? Here's a truth that may be uncomfortable: you attract exactly what you accept. If you accept mediocre relationships, you will have mediocre relationships. If you accept being treated without respect, you will be treated without respect. If you accept mediocrity in yourself, you will be mediocre. But when you set high standards, not out of arrogance, but out of self-respect, something powerful happens. You begin to attract people and opportunities that match those standards. Clearly define your core values. What is non-negotiable for you? How do you expect to be treated? What kind of relationships do you seek? What evolution do you expect from yourself? High standards apply to all areas: loving relationships based on respect, honesty, and mutual growth, friendships with loyalty, reciprocity, and shared values, a professional environment with ethics, competence, and collaboration, and most importantly, your self-development with discipline, constant learning, and the pursuit of virtue. But here's the secret: high standards don't mean impossible perfection. They mean accepting nothing less than what you know is right and good. And communicating those standards not through arrogant words, but through consistent actions. Yes, some people will call you picky. Yes, you can be alone sometimes. But choose temporary solitude over company that diminishes your soul. Because when you hold yourself to high standards, you naturally attract quality people who also value excellence. And here's the magic: high standards create a virtuous cycle. Quality people are attracted to you, which raises your standards even higher, which attracts even better people. It's an upward spiral of growth and meaningful connections. And here we are. 10 codes. 10 keys to a transformation that goes far beyond superficial charisma. If you've made it this far, you're no longer the same person who started watching this video. But here's the bottom line: knowledge without action is just entertainment. You can watch 1,000 videos about charisma, but if you don't apply these codes in your real life, nothing will change. So here's your implementation plan. For the next 2 weeks, focus on deep listening and energetic selectivity. Practice level 4 listening in at least one conversation per day. Do your relationship audit and begin investing your energy more consciously. Over the next few weeks, develop your deep interests and practice compassionate honesty. Choose an area that really fascinates you and dive deep. Have at least one difficult but necessary conversation using the principles of compassionate honesty. At the end of the month, establish and communicate your high standards clearly but respectfully. Remember, this is about progress, not perfection. You will fail sometimes, and that's okay. The Stoics knew that virtue is a daily practice, not a final destination. But if you implement these codes with consistency and authenticity, I promise your life will change. Your relationships will deepen. Your influence will grow. Your impact on the world will amplify. And most importantly, you will become the most authentic and powerful version of yourself. The question I leave you with is this: which of these codes will you implement first? Tell me in the comments. Because when you publicly declare your intention to change, you dramatically increase your chances of success. And if this video really unlocks something in you, share it with someone who also needs to discover these codes. Because true charisma is not kept to oneself, it spreads and elevates others too. You now have the keys to real transformation. The only question left is, will you use them? The journey begins now. And I'll be here to accompany you every step of the way. Subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications, and get ready to discover more secret codes that can transform your life. Your journey of transformation is just beginning.